my guest today is Mark Munroe, a man who I've got an immense regard for. I've learned a hell of a lot from, and I think is really one of the leading lights of the mining industry, certainly in Africa, and probably internationally. So welcome to the Care and Growth podcast, Mark. Very nice to have you.
Etsko, thank you. And thank you for those kind words. Really appreciate it.
So, Mark, just so that people can kind of get a little bit of a sense of where you come from, I mean, just tell us a bit about your career. When did it start? What were the sort of major turning points? How did you get to be where you are now?
Yeah. So, I think Etsko, I'll start at the current, where I am now. I'm currently Chief Executive of Impala Rustenburg Operations. So yes, I'm a mining engineer and a degree in BCom in International Economics as well, and with various other things that you do in management training programs. But my career started in Anglo-American at that time, gold and uranium division, back in the Free State gold mines. Also exposed to the Vol Reefs entity, where I did some shaft sinking and project management, and the Western Deep Levels complex, and then fortunately part of the management training, being exposed to the Anglo-American US operations as well at that time. So yes, that's where I spent the first 16 years of my career, and then obviously progressed and briefly worked in places like Papua New Guinea as mine manager, exposed to various mines in Africa. I was also responsible for mining in Ireland at one time, covered Zambia copper, worked on copper mines, zinc mines, lead mines, but primarily gold and platinum, deep level, large mining. So, yeah, that brings me to where I'm now. I can't say mining was my first choice, and people also, did you set out to become chief executive of a mining company? No, definitely didn't. This is something that I would say opportunity, and it was thrust upon me. I was probably quite content to be an onset in the mines at one time in my life.
Really? Yeah. So what would have been your preferred career setting out?
I think, well, at school, you don't know what it is exactly to be a mine general manager or run mining companies and that. So you don't know. So you can't say, I want to be this, because you don't even know what it is. And then I was limited to sort of, the ideas people throw around while you're still at school. And I wanted to become a chartered accountant at one time. And that's why I did the BCom in economics. It was first of all a BCom in accounting and then BCom in economics. But I found out that being an accountant is not quite as exciting. And doing my back work on the mines, you started working with people. Even as an onset to a miner in mining operations, you're working with people, around people, sort of motivating them, aligning them. And at that time, me being a young white guy and my team being black gentlemen, often older than me, it introduced me to a whole other dynamics, and I really enjoyed working with the people then. And remember, in the late 80s, it was a completely different scenario, and I actually then found that I really enjoyed working with people and not adopting sort of the old management styles, but working with people and motivate them. And at that time, I wasn't doing much growing or coaching. I was being taught and being coached by people that actually worked for me and around me. And that was unique. And really that, as my experience, if I learned something, I would impart it to my team and vice versa. So it was a sort of symbiotic relationship. We were learning and growing together as South Africa was changing. And lo and behold, it was still my intention to leave the mining industry after doing all this fact work and things, but it never happened. I never left. I got promoted and sent to study and became a mining engineer as well, and all of that. And then you slowly move up the ranks, and I suppose a few years later, you find yourself being a mine overseer and a mine manager and eventually a general manager, and being exposed to this wonderful world of mining that we have, which gives you international exposure to lots of different cultures, and then with this very, very strong history, good and bad, that we have in mining industry. And really, I've enjoyed it. It's been a thrill beyond belief.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
So, I mean,
So
have
that's
there
the
been
really
any,
background. Yeah.
were there particular individuals, particularly in your early career, that kind of influenced you, that sort of were enablers?
Yeah. I think, there were people. It was people first of all, but I think before I get to the people that really influenced my behavior and started the passion, I must say that, at school I was never really a team player of any sort. I used to do the running and the individual sports and things like that. So I wouldn't say I was a team player, and I definitely didn't show any signs of leadership at school. And that was, and probably quite an introvert in general. And I think I even was stuttered a bit at school. So public speaking and things was never first choice. So when people say, are leaders built and made? No, they're made. And then obviously, given that there's no such thing as natural leaders, some people just maybe a bit smarter than others or can do a few things better. But that being thrust into that environment, that was part of the trigger, because all of a sudden I had to speak to people of different cultures, of different age groups, and relate to them. And I really found I enjoyed this diversity. I enjoyed the difference, and I enjoyed the learning. And I somehow had the relationship that they enjoyed learning from my perspective. And that triggered it, that this, get out and engage with many different types of thinking and cultures, and let's all get aligned. And then you find out, at the core we're still human. And then, especially coming in the gold mining industry, you see this color separation, gender separation, and it's really not very good. But then you see the power of bringing it together and aligning it, and that we all do have a common vision, huh? And it almost happens naturally if we all have the same intent to improve and to grow and to better society. We actually gel very well together, because our fundamental reason for getting out of bed is the same. So we ignite that passion, and then everything falls into place, and you can work from there. So that started. How do I enjoy thoroughly working in challenging environments, and that's how I thrive in those environments. But there are one or two individuals that sort of change the behavior and change my mindset a bit, because when you're young and you're out of school and you're a student, you really want to live life, and you're enjoying life from a take perspective. You are taking all that life has to offer, and you haven't got much responsibility, so there's really no care in the world. But there was one, I think Ian Haynes, he was at that time my human resource manager. I think he was eventually became human resource manager for Anglo Gold Ashanti at one time. But he was one of the people that I wanted to join the round table at that time, and being young single student, round table was a very good environment to meet people, especially of the opposite gender. So, and he said no, and he was the chairman of the round table. And he said, no, I'm not going to allow you to do that, because I know why you want to do this. You just want to carry on enjoying life. And I think, Mark, you need to just mature up a little bit. And what you actually need to do, you need to join a parent-teachers association of a school, or PTA, where your kids go to school. And then you'll be in a committee that really, your intellect means nothing. You're going to have to convince the people, housewives and different people that might have different ideas of how the school should be run. And now you have to convince those people and take them in a certain direction. And he said, Mark, I suggest you find ways to actually get on committees that serve society, number one. Number two, within that serving, you will be growing, and you'll grow those around you as well. And take on other more challenging environments and stop looking to just join the party. And that actually got me thinking quite a lot, maybe I mustn't be focused around the short-term enjoyment. I must switch over to, growing and having fun in doing it. And, well, ironically, when he was telling me I didn't have kids at school, I didn't have kids. I wasn't even married then, so I couldn't even join the PTA, but he was still giving me this. So I joined many other things. I mean, I think I became chairman of the Welcome Hiking Club, and I established a sort of junior mining engineering forum in Welcome, and started doing these things. And eventually, when I studied mining engineering, I had to become chairman of the house committees, and eventually chairman of the estates, and that I live in and stuff like that. And I found that immensely satisfying. Why? You are helping society in general, and the skills that you have, you're deploying, and you can see the growth and change, and people really appreciate it. And then not only that, I mean, you're actually developing your own skills. People around you in those committees, they're also developing their skills, and you're adding a sense of professionalism to these various committees and direction and moving them forward, and people are enjoying it. And they're actually enjoying following you and achieving a lot more themselves. And there you have it. Now, you're enjoying yourself, you're growing and learning, people are enjoying following you, and they're growing, and together, and then you see, but this really works. So I think the more I started doing that at a junior level, it actually benefited me tremendously. It gave me a set of skills that not many others do have. And it sort of encouraged people to, no, we'll follow this guy and we'll carry on. Now, when you have your positional power, I mean, that is then a very important skill to have and leverage off. That you can rally people together and get them, although they have different sort of micro agendas, the overarching agenda still comes down to being human, have families, children, better society, better themselves, and they can see that, and the team can see it in one another, and then teams gel and work better. I mean, so that's what triggered it. Yeah. He was one of the person, but there were many others. I think I worked for a general manager when I was sinking Walrus 11 shaft. I was the manager sinking the shaft, and Donnie's piece was the general manager. And he was very much about his people. The way he did inductions, lead from the front. As general manager, he personally inducted all the people in the mine. Eventually, he handed that over to me. He said, Mark, you will induct everybody. That's the lowest level, driller, wheelbarrow, pusher, everyone. Inducted them all. You present to them. You talk to them. This is how we do things. This is a team. This is how we line. This is how we all get value. And the stronger your team are, well, the more the team wins and the better you look in any case. So that's your business principles are definitely getting ticked when you do this. And then he just taught me the practical ways of leading from the front and how you align people and how you gel them together in an operational environment. So I think, there's many people that have guided, assisted, supported. And then, of course, I met you somewhere along the line. That's going. I think that's where you sort of gave me a completely another view and added a science, a specific philosophy onto it. And, then we adopted the Caring Growth Leadership philosophy, which was, in actual fact, what I've been working on in an amateur fashion up to that point. And then you added this science and a method, and there's a whole academia behind it. And then I understood it more, and you can grow specific points. And now, how do you instill this in others and replicate it? Because that's what leadership is about.
Thank you.
Spreading the word as well.
So Mark, I mean, you really have made a spectacular success of turning Impala around. Can you tell us a bit about that journey? Because, I mean, I remember the first time you and I had a conversation about this, it sounded to me like you were putting your head into the crocodile's jaws. I mean, it looked like you were taking on something that was about to fall over and die.
Yeah, so Impala wasn't the first time. I mean, it's actually, I land up in these positions regularly, and it's probably by design, you've got to match the beast to the environment sometimes, and sometimes I end up in there, and that is where I thrive, in these harsh environments. So, I mean, it really started when I was, and I suppose it says something, so how I was recruited into the business. I mean, I signed the employment form and I joined the business without looking at the business, knowing that Impala was in a very, very bad state operationally. Safety, it was the worst in safety in the platinum industry. It was running at phenomenal losses, I think $3 billion a year losses. It was going to shut down or lose its whole business. It was going to shut down sort of half its business or third of its business to keep the viable parts open. And it wasn't a great culture. It was inwardly looking, destructive culture on a downward spiral. And I was actually aware of that. And that's why, and they said, don't you want to look at the ore body or see the infrastructure? And I actually said, no, there's no need for me to see that, because that's not what it's about. Even if it needs to be closed, I will still be able to, I'll do my best in that, and I believe that's where I have specific skill in that in any case. So I signed up for this, knowing that you might win or lose this war, and knowing that even if I lost the war, I would lose it in a much better fashion than most others would. So I signed up, joined the company, and the mandate was close the unprofitable mines, retrench, I think it was 13,000 people, and ensure the mine gets back to profitability. It was the worst in safety. That was one of the elements, but losing huge amounts of cash and losing ore reserve every year. We started off, it was a question of you walking into a beehive, and there was no trust in any case. So why would they trust an outsider when they don't trust the people in the company? And it was a tough, first few months just to get people aligned and looking. But I think the first port of call is, you don't I didn't join this business to hurt people. I came here to grow and help people. I would like to be successful. You'd like to be successful. Do you? Yes. Well, guess what? Our objective is the same, man. Guess what? We all have families. There's a community out there that depends on you. And that's why that initial message actually spread quite quickly. And the mines that were the worst off, I was just looking at our 12 shaft now. Our 12 shaft was the worst off. That was one of the mines I had to close, 12, 14, one shaft.
That's amazing.
Franchise people. 12 shaft currently is our best margin. Hey?
That's amazing.
And they're just doing a project there to extend its life further and mechanize some areas. So from being our worst performer, it's now one of our best performers. And that's safety, production, and all those elements, the cost management and all that. So it was really just aligning them, saying, you're going to lose your job. We're going to close down now, but yeah, I'm trying to help you. And then people do learn to trust you, and you just have to find one or two wins, and you do improve the trust. And I mean, the union was hostile then as well. But I work very, very well with my union now. They are very much supportive of us. And we just built on that, going about, let's make a strong team. I cannot run this business. Impala has 42,000 people. So one man cannot run this business alone. You need a team effort. You need everyone to pull in the same direction. And that's why you got the buy-in over time. People saw this. And yes, to end up where we are, I think our share price has improved significantly. Impala's paid significant dividends out. We have won the trophy for the best in the platinum industry from a safety point of view.
Wow.
We've won the netball team. I think we've also been winning the corporate relay event that's happened. We won it with the South African champions. I think 2 years ago, before COVID, we also won the world championship. And so we've turned, and the Impala is now the home of champions, as we call it. It's where people come to win, and where people do to just naturally win. So we've broken our all-time safety records. Currently, our lost time injury frequency rate is the lowest it's ever been.
That's amazing.
And the business is in a good position to face the next downturn. Downturns are always real, so those are challenging, but in a good position to face them and move forward.
And so I mean, there were 35,000 people employed when you started. You were going to retrench 13,000, and you now have 42,000 people.
Yeah, 42.
Yeah, that's amazing. Rather than cut and burn, you built.
We've grown, and I mean, it's all when you look at those numbers. We've got huge amounts of interns. So those numbers are made up of a cadet program as well that we pre-train people in, because the youth say they got no experience, so therefore they never get hired. So we start a cadet program. So we train them. We teach them up so that they can at least enter the workforce. Our internships, that's graduates that we bring in. We bring in on a 2-year graduate internship program. So yes, those numbers just add, but I mean, I believe you just get value out of that in the long run from those things. We help out in the communities. We've expanded our security forces, our security in the business, and we do community patrols now as well. So yeah, it's not only the business, but we're now able through this to do a lot more community work, support schools, build schools, SLP projects. We recently built a swimming pool in a local community, athletics tracks. We handed over a big clinic to the community. So yeah, it's grown, but not only the business, it's actually what the business can do as well. We've really grown in those areas. So it's been good, yeah.
Well, congratulations, Mark. I mean, it's really been an incredible honor to be part of this ride and to sort of look over your shoulder at the changes in the organization, because they really have been dramatic.
Yeah. That's been good. I mean, I can't. I mean, obviously, we've relied heavily on your teaching and coaching, but I think every team member has contributed to that. You have your inner circle, your people around you, those that align with you, and you go forward. So a good team effort. We have, of course, the price of platinum has also helped significantly. I mean, I must say there's been a people intervention only. When as a leader, you've got to put your sales up, and then the wind will come. Well, if your sales aren't up, you won't benefit from the wind.
That's right, yeah.
So yeah, we've definitely put our sales up, and we did benefit from. And Impala's in a good place.
Well, I mean, from every point of view, you came from being the dog in the industry to being the star in the industry. I mean, that's probably the most significant sort of metric to look at, rather than pure profitability.
Yeah. But Etsko, the most gratifying thing for me as well, I was handing out, I think I gave out, we had an event and we gave out 50 bursaries to the local community to study, BSc mining engineering or chemical engineering. Accountants. There were one or two that wanted to study teaching and things like that. And I was standing next to a colleague giving out the bursaries where we invited, the parents and the child and giving it out there. So you talk profitability and everything, but handing out the bursaries and the mother and father come up to people that would never entered the graduate space, and you give out the bursary, and at that time, you actually changed that family fundamentally. They now going to have someone at university that will support, that will come out. Generations after that will take a different trajectory, and it's going to have a multiplying effect in society. And actually, this colleague was standing next to me, and he says, "Mark, this is why we do what we do."
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just standing looking like that. It's not really. The profits enable everything else. You must have profits, but they do enable all of this. So that's what moves society forward, I think. So that has been the joy.
In fact, I had a question like that I wanted to ask you. What is your view of how people run businesses should think about the purpose of their business?
Yeah. No, I mean, so what are, even if you look at it from a pure profit point of view, what's the objective of making profit? Surely that profit gets recirculated, reinvested, and contributes to society, and reinvest, you make other businesses. And because I mean, even extremely rich people invest their money somewhere, and it grows and has a multiplier effect, and surely that should benefit society. So I mean, businesses are societal bodies that get together to further society, and society is made up of individuals and humans. So I mean, if you look at it that way, even if you just make profit, your objective, if you look at the bigger objective and where it goes, your objective is to benefit society and people. So you don't have to do it only through profit. Sometimes you can deploy those profits more effectively prior to making profit. So I view my job and this mine, we mine, but that's maybe what we do, but that's not why we come to work. We are an organization or grouping of people that fundamentally sets out to improve society and improve the life of people, the livelihood of people. And that's growing them, developing them, so future generations will fundamentally be in a better space because of what we do today. And that's at work, in your home environment, in your conversations when you're doing your shopping. Surely that is why you exist. Surely you can't wake up in the morning to see how I'm going to destroy the human species and yourself, given that you're very much part of that. So I mean, I have children, and my children will live in the society I create. So it is definitely, even in my selfish interest, to create a better society and better humans, so that at least your children will have a much better life. So no, I mean that's why you get out of bed. You don't get out of bed to come to work to deliver tons or profits.
Yeah.
You get out of bed to make a difference in society.
Right.
So yeah.
If you were to advise anybody who's going to make a big transformation in a large organization, I mean, what would be the pointers? What would you say to that person?
Yeah. Well, I was asked the other day on leadership, what tips do I have for leaders? Well, you must be no illusion that you're going to transform this by coming in there and setting a set of objectives. No, it doesn't work. There's an incredible amount of work and thinking that you actually have to push this business. Because change, by definition, you're going to get people to do things different tomorrow than what they were doing yesterday, and that is not a very natural phenomenon. And that takes courage from yourself, perseverance, and the acceptance of failure, and the acceptance that you must learn out of that failure. So you must accept that you're going to fail, and that you must accept that failure is not necessarily a failure in itself. It's only a failure if you don't learn from it. And you learn and adjust that you're going to be faced with this. And because you're pushing to move to a different state, future state, you'll be going against everything that's around you. And to manage that, you have to be resilient, passionate, and in it for the long run. Now, you can only do that, Etsko, with that energy. You can only keep your energy at those levels if your fundamental inner being and your intent is a lot deeper. It cannot be shallow. It's got to be a lot deeper, and you've got to have some sort of value system aligned to bettering the society or bettering the company, and therefore bettering society. So I think that is, first of all, if you want to effect rapid transformation, you need to really come to an understanding of why you're doing it, and get to that root cause, and then say, is this what you want to do? Is this your passion? Because if you can't answer that, what's inside you, you will never be able to do it externally. Do it by force, I suppose. But so once you sorted that out, then things start becoming aligned. When your own intent is right, that'll trigger your passion and your energy. And then after that, then you start recognizing how you're going to do it. So first of all, you can ignore the fact that you should be a leader and reckon you're going to do this all on your own. Well, if you've got a 42,000 business, you're going to struggle. You cannot do it all alone. It's impossible. You cannot even coordinate it. It's impossible. You probably can't even construct a master plan to move it in this direction. You have to somehow get individual elements, and that being the individual members in the team, to get aligned with this from within themselves, and align this and start pushing in the same direction and then you get a lot more assistance and support from this, and it sort of self-perpetuates and starts leading. But I do always, when I set on these motions, I envisage an end state. I try and impart that end state to everyone in my team, and that end state never starts with where the business will be. It starts with what you would like out of it. You'd like a future for your children. You'd like security for your family. You'd like to have an enjoyable job where you're not threatened all the time. You're actually at peace and giving something that you're passionate about. And that is the sketch. That is what a leader must do. Sketch that in the minds of their people, make them clarify. Everyone wants that. But few people actually articulate it quite clearly. Because once you've articulated that in the minds of everyone, and everyone has a slightly different picture of how they articulated this, but once they've articulated that, now you can see, okay, but you need to have a job for this. You need to be successful. You need colleagues for this. You need peers for this. You need a system for this. And then you start articulating, and you link the actions and the specific business objectives to that bigger vision of themselves. So the bigger vision can never be a successful company in itself, or tons, or profit. Wow. It's got to be the people, your family, what you'd like, and then you link on, but you're not an island. You need people. Surely have 2 push, it's better. 3 push, it's better. So your job is to sometimes, set other people up for success. And if that other person scores the goal, well, it does help you. It is good for you. You don't have to score the goal. In fact, the more you try to score the goal, the more you'll disenfranchise your colleagues, maybe, and you'll be an island, and you will not survive. So when people start getting this, then you can actually say, but you must get that blast today. And people don't read that as, I must get my tons today. They do read it as, that's when they start getting the picture. I do read it as, no, I must secure my future. I must create my growth, my happiness, and that of my team. And we are one, and therefore we work together. And then I think, it becomes a lot easier to push the machine, these big companies forward when they're aligned to those objectives.
But this idea, I must admit that's it's really nicely articulated, Mark, that the first work, if you want to change the organization around you, the first work is inside work.
Yeah. And it remains inside work.
Yeah.
The other is what you trained as an engineer or project manager or accountant or whatever business that you trained to do that. That you must do. And you and I have been in these scenarios where it's very difficult to now you're writing down these things. And if you and I are doing it alone, we're going to work very hard. But if you can get a general manager to come up with his own ideas on this, all of a sudden you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and many are doing it. You can actually almost stand back and guide and
that's
coach.
Right.
It's a lot easier. So surely just how can you deploy the least energy in this area means step 1, get as many people on the ship as possible. So focus your attention on doing that. And then, to use your terms, grow those people, develop them. And as you do that, well, their skills become better. They can do it more and more and more. And then it perpetuates itself. So it is that, and then you've got to keep bringing your team back to that.
So Mark, do you think it's possible for working people in South Africa to kind of transcend the legacy and the victimhood of the whole apartheid history?
It is possible. It is proving to be very challenging, but it is possible. I actually think it's that snap. People, you always get those that look for the problems and blame the past. Sometimes you have to say, we are where we are. Now let's look to the future now. Because I am where I am. I don't like this. And there's no value in blaming. We've actually decided who's to blame. We know who's to blame. It's articulate. It's written down in many places. We know that. You're not achieving much by referring to that all the time. So you need to look forward. Where does this country, where does society want to be 5, 10, 20 years from now? And I think Nelson Mandela articulated quite nicely in his teachings and what he's been saying. We're this multicultural society, but that should be our strength. We've got all these cultures. Let's work together. We cannot do without one another. We are inherently reliant on one another. Okay, now realize that and stop trying to make an enemy of that person. Make a friend of that person, and then work together. And when you start looking forward, you say, how can I make a bigger pie? When you look backwards or at the current, you're looking at the current pie. How I can divide it up differently? So yes, the pie must get divided differently. But if we're looking forward, we are growing. We are expansionist. So I think that is step 1. That's what we have to do. Envisage this future and then recognize that future will not be given to you. You have to work towards it. And you cannot do it alone by pushing the others out. If someone's doing that, and I think that's where South Africa battles, we look to the future and people say, no, I want a bigger slice of this pie. Instead of saying, let's make a bigger pie and we can all eat from this pie. People are looking to eat as much as they can now. And that really is very short term. And I think you don't need to be that intelligent to know that is not sustainable.
No.
So we as individuals need to just somehow, I wouldn't use the word self-sacrifice, but you need to be aware that no, you got to help build the pie, make the future. And if you're not making the future, you should not be entitled to take from the future or the present. Now, that unfortunately is the culture we have to counteract. You have no right to take from the present. You should not. You are not entitled to anything. Work on making the future, and the future will reward you. You will grow into that as well. And then I think we'll be a lot more aligned, and then recognize our interdependence and dependence on one another. And I think things will be greater. And I think just fun, Etsko. I mean, I was obviously going to high school in the 80s, went to a whites-only school there. And when I joined the mines in the beginning, it was phenomenal, because I came as a young white guy straight out of school into a mining environment where at that time the people that worked for me were black males, all older than me, and I was working with them. And originally I was very nervous. Now I'm going to be an onsetter or a miner, and I'm going to be working with people that I've never really engaged with. I don't know what the people eat. I've heard of what they eat, but I've never seen what they eat. Never engaged. You come in and you engage, and then you engage with people, and you find the different cultures. And at that time, I thought, whites were whites and blacks were blacks. I mean, I knew there were English and Afrikaans, and there was a Boer War and all that, but I thought all blacks were blacks, and there were these things. And then when you start engaging, you engage on a human level, and you see different cultures, different behaviors, and then you go another layer and you actually see different people and individuals. And that was exciting for me. And now I'm in a space where I actively seek a different environment and talk to different people that are not like me. Talking to people like me is fairly boring. They don't come with anything that exciting. Engaging with people with a fundamental different outlook is interesting. Going to different places is interesting. So you don't have to say, I need to travel to Europe. You just need to go talk to the person up the road. You'll find him suitably different to you. To just have a good time, enjoying differences. And I thrive in that environment now. Really enjoy it.
How unique are we as South Africans? I mean, you've worked in mines, and you've been involved in mining businesses all over the world. I mean, are the sort of problems that we face in South African mining, are they pretty similar, or are they very unique?
So, I don't know. I'd say, let's not say unique. Unique says you are special or something, but you know what we do have in South Africa that maybe other countries don't have? We have all of it here. We have all of it. We have a lot more different cultures. We have the background of a violent history, but we also have the best example of harmonious leadership in terms of Nelson Mandela. And sometimes, I mean, so you have from the violence, but yet you have the passion and the uniqueness and the love and the kindness, and we see that in different areas how it shines. And South Africans get together and help one another every year and help one another. You see that all over. I mean, and so you have this diversity. You have our unique gender challenges, but yet some of our women are the strongest women in the world. You have these violent men around in our society, but yet you have some of the most peace-loving men in the world that come from us. I mean, you can see that in Elon Musk and stuff. So he came from, I mean, a society that produces that kind of thinking to get to Mars and wherever. It must be a unique society. If you look at our sports, some of us are rugby supporters, some of us soccer supporters. You have all these put together. It's amazing, And you have, I suppose, on the other spectrum, extremely well-off people, and you have extremely poor people. You have advanced technical societies and areas in our society, and you have this huge poverty and really a challenging environment. So you have everything here, and that's what is. Let's say that is unique in terms of you have what the world has all over here. But I was looking, I mean, I look at what's happening in the Ukraine. I look at even what's happening to Donald Trump in the USA. Well, we've had a little bit of that Ukraine stuff at one time in our history. We've had that Donald Trump impeachment. I mean, that's ongoing.
That's right.
We have some strong entities in our society. We have some weak entities in our society. So, we have a bit of all these things over here, and that is just exciting. You won't find that all over. So if you want a slower life, go somewhere else.
Yeah. It's like that famous kind of curse. May you live in interesting times. Well, come and live in South Africa.
Yes. In fact, now every time I do a budget, I start off. I noticed it a few years ago that I start off. It has been a challenging year, and this is how we're going to deal with the challenge. Every time I do my annual budget, present that. This has been a challenging time. And I look back at the last one, but I said that was a challenging time. I said that was a challenge. They were all challenging times, And I was pointing out to my team, we say this is a challenging time. We've just finished COVID. We've got some elections coming on. We've got a challenging environment with our municipalities and civil society and things like that. And our mines are getting deeper, and we've got Etsko giving us challenges in the mining industry. This is a challenging environment. And I point out to them, no. Way back, the army was called in to bomb the mine workers, Or the Air Force. The Air Force was deployed to bomb the mine workers. Compared to that, this is quite boring, The Air Force hasn't quite flown over our mines yet, or over our mine workers yet. So, yes, the industry has had the Marikana and very difficult and troubling times. But we've come out of them. And we will have hopefully better times going forward. But we must know, because of our diverse culture, our challenging operating environment that we have, it's always going to be challenging and therefore interesting.
And therefore kind of model making. I mean, if you can make it work here, it's going to work.
I think that's what, leadership, so learnings, strength, leadership, character comes from difficult times. If you didn't have difficult times, you wouldn't have those experiences. And therefore, if you had a good easy environment, you are not half as robust. And that was like, you look back, would you change anything in your past? Yes, I changed all of the bad things that happened. But then recognizing, if I take all those bad things that happened, and there have been bad things. I mean, the mining industry has had fatals, has had strikes, has had violent strikes. Definitely you'd like to take them out of your past, But then, Etsko, you do that, and you've actually destroyed your current skill level, your current exposure experience. You'll destroy your resilience.
That's right.
So
exactly.
You must recognize that your current strength is built of the difficult times.
Yeah, that's right. That's very helpful, Mark. Mark, thank you very much for this interview. It's been really entertaining. I mean, every time I talk to you, I'm entertained. So thank you. I've learned a lot.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
I mean, I must give you credit. In that, where have you learned, where have you exposed? When I met you and I began to understand some of these concepts, then I recognized, so I have that concept in my head, but you've devoted your life to articulate that, studying it, looking at the triggers, the learnings, the values, and you actually just put it out actually nice, clear for me to see. If I'd have lived another 100 years, I would have been able to articulate as well as you do and got it down eventually. But you did fast track my learning. So I didn't need 100 years. I only had to know you for a few years, and I've been able to move a lot faster in my personal growth as well. So thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you for the opportunity to talk.
Thank you, Etsko. Go on.